Hi everyone, I spent most of last month working on an MVP prototype for a VR game to decide whether or not the idea behind it was worth pursuing. In this video, I'll be covering what the process was like and if I'm going to be continuing to make the game at hand. Last month, I began working on a VR game. I won't go into too many details since I fully intend for this to become a commercial product, but let's just say for now that it's got RPG elements and is primarily targeting release on the Oculus Quest. Either way, this video is focusing more on the process of making the game than the game itself. Which brings us to this whole minimum viable product stuff. If you don't know what a minimum viable product or MVP is, it's basically a prototype of a game meant to test out the core idea to see if it's worth making in full. In my case, I began development on March 1st and gave myself till the end of the month to finish up the MVP. That's where we'll begin this development story then. For my game engine, I went with Unity since I work a lot faster in it using C# than I do Unreal Engine with blueprints in C++. Game engine in tow, I went right into development and started with constructing a basic scene. Once I had a bunch of cubes and lights laid out, I got right to working on the VR implementation in RPG systems, for which I must thank Justin P. Barnett, Brackeys, and CodeMonkey for their awesome tutorials that made things a whole lot easier. After finishing up the tutorials, spending a bit more development time on some things like a time of day system and even building out a level in Blender 3D, I finally built the project and was playing it directly on my Quest 2. Talk about progress, this is going to be a piece of cake. Oh, it runs like crap. So yeah, this wasn't going to be that easy. My inexperience in development definitely shone through here. To start, I needed to begin with accepting there are a few things you can do on stronger platforms that you simply shouldn't in mobile VR right now. Having all my systems in a mess of spaghetti code didn't really help here either, so I spent some time optimizing the build, and before I knew it, I had a week left of the month with entire features of the game not even started. Not gonna lie here, I was getting some real flashbacks to the development hell I was in back in 2016 and 2017 with my older VR RPG project that just wouldn't get off the ground. Really, I've got a history of starting and not properly finishing a lot of projects, and the history was really starting to become some heavy baggage here. With my self-imposed March 31st deadline looming, I was feeling a bit anxious that I wouldn't even be able to get a minimum viable product done in time. If that was the case, just what would that spell for the future of the full game? The picture I was painting in my head was starting to feel pretty bleak, but having gone through a much more depressing and hopeless time in my life recently, I decided to do exactly what I did to deal with that situation to try to get myself out of this rut. I got some distance and evaluated my goals. After a few nice walks, hanging out with some friends, and a bit of time creating a development plan, I found myself asking a very important question. What was my MVP supposed to include exactly? If you remember from earlier, I said that a minimum viable product is a prototype of a game meant to test if the core idea is any good. My goal wasn't supposed to be to get a basic running version of every single element of my game. That's basically an alpha build. No, I needed to verify that the basic mechanics of the game could be engaging. Under this properly adjusted expectation, we need only recall my initial description of the project. A VR game, check. With some RPG elements, check. Primarily targeting release on the Quest, check. When you look at that, it turns out that my MVP wasn't just close to done, it had basically been done after a week or so of development. The following image by Heinrich Nyberg I feel captures the lesson from my past month of development pretty well. When I began, I was looking at the MVP development process in the not like this manner. I'd begin with the VR, then some RPG elements, then throw in some special sauce, and eventually build my way up to a completed project. When I stopped to question what the core needs I wanted to meet with my game were, the prototype I'd built started to look a whole lot more like a skateboard and less like an unfinished wheel. Minimum viable product in its phrasing made me focus a little bit too much on the product side of things and not enough on the minimum viable. Earliest testable product, earliest usable product, earliest lovable product. I can't help but find their three terms here much more effective for getting a development plan going, at the very least for me. And I'm happy to say I'll be getting some use for these phrases in the future, since my experience with the skateboard build of my game has hyped me up and gotten me ready to move on to the scooter build. That's right, everybody. The MVP experience has greenlit full development. Follow me on Twitter at MarkystalVR and stay tuned for more news as development progresses. And if you're like me and want to get into VR development right now, I cannot possibly recommend that you do so enough. The tools and resources available right now are spectacular, and the time is now to make your mark on the VR industry. I have to give a special thanks to Fia for posting something along those lines on Twitter at just the right time to fire me up on this matter. Here's hoping that energy boost and the completion of the MVP are enough to get me to start making more videos without 3-month gaps in between. Thank you so much for watching this video though, my fellow adventurers and dreamers. Till next time, this has been Gregory, logging out.